So I imagine that you're all here today because we advertise 6 ways to make more money in the next 4 weeks. I suspect that there are a few of you out there that are feeling the, shall we call it a lull, the post year-end giving lull of, okay, how do we inspire people to get going at those same levels, right? We get lots of great gifts that come in at the end of the year, and then we hit January and we sort of have to hit that reset button again and start inspiring yet again. Little secret, you actually don't stop and hit a reset button. But for the purposes of today, I would like to have that sort of hat on to remind us that we can do things, whether it is today in February, over the next 4 weeks, or whether you find yourselves just stuck in a lull, right? Any other time of year. So I hope that these 6 key takeaways will really give you some tangible ideas to go forth and raise more money in the next 4 weeks. With that, I'm going to hand it over to Shauna to get us started with the first couple.
Thank you so much, Marty, and thank you for the shout out there. I do believe that if you add enough sugar to carrots, you can make any cake be delightful. So if you could add that next slide on there, please, Trish, we'll go ahead and get started. So does your program, this is kind of a repeat of what Marty just shared with us, but I think the answer, if we're all honest, is yes to this question, correct? Our program or our campaign, wherever we're at, it does, in fact, need a cash boost to start off the year. We need a cash boost at all moments, right? It would be wonderful to have ways to be able to just dig in our back pocket and say, okay, listen, how can I get some more cash through the door? We've got 6 strategies that you can actually take to the bank and say, okay, this is how we're going to engage our donors or our prospects. So we're going to try these. I'm going to start out with the first 2. If you just move us to our next slide there, please, Trish. So this is one of my favorites. Schedule visits with every lapsed donor you have. If you're bored, this will solve that issue. Not only will it help you get cash through the door, but it is going to solve the issue of boredom that you surely have, that you are struggling with every day at your job because you do not know what to do or you have not enough to do, right? Wrong. But still, a lapsed donor, they are incredible assets to our organization, and we all have them. I don't care how good we are at retention. I don't care how good we are at stewardship. I don't care how good we are at all the things. We all have lapsed donors. What is a lapsed donor? Great question, everybody. What's a lapsed donor? It's someone that it's been more than a year since their last gift. It might have been 20 years since their last gift. They are a lapsed donor. They have believed in our cause in the past for whatever reason, but they are not currently engaged in a pledge. So we're not waiting for a gift to come in on their behalf. And they're not actively giving. So they maybe were giving on an annual basis, but we're not seeing those annual gifts any longer, right? So that's how we're going to define a lapsed donor. Why lapsed donors? Another great question. They've already shown that they love us, right? A big part of what we do whenever we're trying to bring new donors on board is that we are trying to convince them that our mission is better than the mission down the street that is asking for their same amount of money, right? Our lapsed donors already believe in us. At some point, they have already said, I believe in what you're doing and I want to make you be able to do it better or more, or to be able to sustain or be able to grow. They've already fallen for that pitch at some point in their lives. That's a huge bonus for us, right? Another big one, which is like painfully obvious. We hopefully have their number, right? Because they've given to us before. We have a way to contact them. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. We've got the data that we need to be able to call them. And this one, which kind of wraps it all together, they probably aren't giving because we aren't asking. And that might mean us specifically. They might mean specifically the executive director or the major gifts officer or the donor relations. No one has asked me specifically. And I used to be asked specifically. There's been a changing of the guard. There's been a changing of whatever it is. And I don't feel as though I'm in the know anymore. No one's asking me. And if no one's asking me, very rarely am I going to give, right? Those are phenomenal donors, the ones who give without us asking, but we have to be able to do the work to be able to get them back. So they probably aren't giving because we didn't ask. So let's go ask them. Let's go sit down with them. Let's say to them, share with me why you gave in the past, right? Learn their story, get to know them. You might not know them at all, and they might become your new best friends. They're just waiting for that phone call from Marty to say, hey, I'd really like to get to know you. I'd really like to hear your story as to why you supported us. Would you be willing to go to lunch with me? You don't have to make a direct ask right then, but you can open the door to allow for those asks to happen, right? You do 20 of those, guaranteed, you're going to start having money come through the door. We've had a lot of people say to us lately, that person just, all they did was participate in a feasibility study interview, and we got to check the next week. Did you ask him for money? No, but you were top of mind. Your organization is top of mind and you are communicating with them and they're hearing about the mission and they want to give, right? People want to give. Let's give them the opportunity to. Number 2, set a short-term goal with your volunteers. Anyone on this, this call or this presentation goal-oriented? Most of us, right? Most of us like those goals clearly set in front of us. And sometimes what happens, especially with our volunteers, a year, an annual goal, that's a really big elephant in the room. Or it's not something that they're focused on all the time. So let's break it down, even for ourselves. Let's break it down. Let's look at what we're trying to accomplish within this month or this quarter. Easily done just by numbers, right? If we take a number, we divide it by 12, and that spits out our monthly goal or our quarterly goal, right? Everyone makes 3 asks before March 1st. What does that mean, Shauna? So that means we're going to sit down with XYZ committee and we're going to say, okay, we all need our own goals. We're all marching forward towards this big, beautiful goal, but we all have to have our own goals in order to reach that goal, right? What does that look like for you? Well, Shauna, I can probably give you 2 lunches next week, and I can probably squeeze in a dinner following that. But I can promise you I can do 5 phone calls. Okay, are those the goals you're setting for yourselves? Can we write them down? Can we revisit them at our next meeting and see how you did on those 5 phone calls, 3 lunches, and 1 dinner? Sure, yes. I'm accountable to those goals. Much easier than saying, okay, I'm responsible for 25 prospects this year. Because what happens whenever I'm responsible for 25 prospects? I'm going to wait until the next time we're together. And then I remember that I had 25 prospects. Okay. So break down those goals, make them short term, make them something that is easily achievable and then easily celebrated on the other side. We want to hit $300,000 this quarter. How are we going to do it? How are we collectively going to do it? If we are opening the doors and sitting down with lapsed donors, we can plug those numbers directly into these goals. By utilizing these relationships with lapsed donors, we're going to be able to reach these financial goals and these finite goals that we're setting for ourselves in terms of how we're going to sit down with people and how many people we're going to sit down with. So you can see that these 6 items are going to flow really well together. And if you're doing one, it's going to help you meet another goal that is one of those 6. And you're going to start seeing that cash flow through the doors, which is something that we all just dream. We lie awake in bed dreaming about how we can have more cash to reach our goals, right? So I am going to turn it back over to Marty now, and she's going to give you numbers 3 and 4.
Thank you, Shauna. Show of hands, how many of you have ever done a matching gift challenge? Looks like a good number. That's great. But there's definitely some people on this call who never have done it. I'm going to let you in on a little secret. Before I did it for the first time, it was intimidating to me. Does anyone else feel that way? It seems like complicated. I don't know. Let me just keep raising money. I just like, it's too much, right? Like the logistics of what that might look like. We complicate things in our head, right? But I'm going to let you in on another secret. Most challenge gifts are gifts that we, as the fundraiser, have to ask them if we can use their gift as a challenge. I don't know why, but I thought that when a challenge gift came forth, that it was usually driven by the donor saying, "Ooh, I want you to challenge other people." Well, guess what? Most people aren't going to come to us and say that. That is not 100% the case. I'm sure there are some of you out there who have had a very savvy donor that said, "Hey, I want to give you a big gift and I want it to be a challenge." And that does happen. And so you can definitely, capitalize on that when that time comes. But guess what? Most of the time, we have to ask. Just like Shauna said, if we don't ask, we don't get. And so sometimes that is as easy as a recent gift or a gift that you have been working on already, you planting that seed and saying, "Hey, I know that you are planning to do this gift, but we really need your help to inspire others to do just the same. Would you allow us to use your gift to inspire others to give as a challenge to the community?" And if you say it to them in the right way, the likelihood is they're not going to have a problem with that, because it can be anonymous. It can be that they want recognition. So it doesn't matter if they don't want the recognition, that's fine. It can be an anonymous donor has come forth. If they would like the recognition, great, play to their ego, make it special for them, make it meaningful for them, recognize them, and make it even more meaningful than just a regular gift, right? So of course, we want to ask the permission as a courtesy, because somebody might say no. But the likelihood, if they're going to make this gift anyway, that they would be like, "Yeah, no, I don't want to help you anymore." Like, why did they give you $100,000 if they don't want to help you, right? They want to help you. They just don't necessarily know the power that they have and that they can motivate others, right? So make sure that if you are interested in doing a challenge gift, you realize that you actually have to lay out what that looks like. So asking for it is a part of it. We've got to set a specific time frame. This can be tricky, right? Like, how long? We want to inspire action. We want it to be something that creates that sense of urgency. So we want it to be a short time frame, relatively speaking, but we also don't want it to be too short that we don't have enough time to reach the goal, right? Because the worst thing that can happen is that we don't maximize that, we don't reach our goal, and then what do you do, right? So it's definitely dependent on the size of gift, right? If it's a $10,000 challenge versus $1 million challenge, the time frame should be according to your organization and how that looks and what you have going on. But you want to set a specific time frame, right? Whether it is all donations doubled for the next 3 weeks, make your gift now, help us reach this goal, right? Whether it is over the next 6 months, we need to reach $1 million in funds raised to be able to get this $1 million gift. Like, that is a reasonable expectation, but we have to make sure we're setting ourselves up for success, make sure that we're lining up asks, make sure we're doing the work to achieve and overachieve the goal in the specific time frame that we use. So make sure that you know what you're wanting to work with, and it shouldn't be, "Oh, over the next 3 years for our campaign, all gifts are going to be matched." No, that's too long of a time frame. People will be like, "Oh, I can give 3 years from now. I don't need to think about it," right? We've got to create the sense of urgency. That is the point of a matching gift challenge. Does anyone have one that they're currently working on? I think I see a couple of you actually on here who I know. Would anyone like to share just a little bit about how they set that up on the size and the challenge amount? Donna Steins?
How did I know you were going to call on me?
Well, I thought there were others that could, but I know that you definitely are in the midst and have just overachieved your goal, right?
Yes. So we had a one of my philanthropy council companies that gave $100,000. And so we used them as our year-end challenge gift to encourage people to give. And it truly does, I will say, it does help in the giving. I have several donors that would email me and say, hey, I'm trying to help you reach a goal. I'm giving you another couple $1,000s. And we met and exceeded. In fact, we raised our year-end giving was a little close to $300,000 without the $100,000 match. So it went really, really well. And I think I encourage, if you've never done a matching gift challenge, I think it definitely, we've seen it for 2 years now in our year-end giving. It's really truly helped our efforts.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing. I know that it's definitely getting that first one, and you actually perfectly teed up what I was trying to go for. They've done it a couple of times because it works so well. So again, definitely something, if you haven't done it in a while, go for it. There's no time like the present. All right, number 4. Upgrade your consistent current donors with incentives. Y'all, this is actually can be so meaningful, and it's very common to think, well, we already have a pledge from them or they already just gave. But if you look at your existing donors who are moving along that in deepening their relationship with your organization, they may have started as an annual gift donor at like $250. And if you don't ask them to increase, they're probably not going to. They don't really know like what's the difference. Like, hey, I gave, I'm going to give again. So it's so important to continue to move people along. But if you also find that someone is consistently giving to you at the highest level of your annual gifts club, for example, why not invite them to join you as part of your special gifts club, right? So steal this script. Here's a great example. Mr. Smith, I wanted to thank you for giving over the years. And I've noticed now that you're almost giving just shy of that next giving club level. Like dangle that carrot, right? We can recognize you at our next recognition gathering in March if you'd like to just increase your giving a little bit this year. Here's what that could look like. Spell it out for them, right? Have the ability to know your person who has already been very consistent and dangle something that may be attractive to them right in front of them. If we don't lead them down that path, most people won't just say, hey, I think it's time for me to step it up to that next giving club level. But it's definitely something that is expected, right? If we are stewarding our donors and they are continually demonstrating that they're coming back for more and they are happy and they are a part of your organization, they will expect you to ask that next level. So do it before they think of it, because they're not going to think of it. So definitely having a recognition celebration or something, again, inspiring to action to a deadline is helpful to that process that incentivizes them. We're going to recognize all of our, special gifts club donors at this thing next month or at this meeting next week, whatever that might look like, helps to incentivize and inspire to action. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Jake to take us home for the last couple of tips.
All right. Thanks so much. So as both Marty and Shauna mentioned kind of early on, the wave of year-end donors that we get is kind of a combination. Like we're not necessarily doing all of our donor visits one-on-one in December. A lot of our volunteers are actually tough to get a hold of in December. A lot of people are traveling, people have families, people take time off. It's not necessarily to sit down and have those conversations in December. There's a lot of that, of course, but it's not like a spike like it is with mailings and kind of those unsolicited gifts. So more than likely, if you're an established nonprofit especially, you're probably getting a wave of new gifts or repeated gifts or annual gifts that you didn't like verbally solicit for. Maybe it was somewhat unsolicited, or maybe you asked for the gift and I'll get it to you by year and it finally comes in. It maybe came from a mailing. They got something in the mail, they filled it out, they sent it back. Maybe you did an online thing on Facebook or on some kind of a donation website where you got people encouraged to sign up and give and participate. A lot of times people have there's a lot of butterfly themed things or lights of love themed things, same kind of names in a lot of different organizations all over the country, especially in the healthcare sector. And a lot of those gifts are either not solicited at all or semi-solicited. So we use this wonderful opportunity in the January, February, March space, especially if you can get through January and get all caught up, because we know January can be very, very hectic for a lot of us, is to follow up with those people specifically and do try to get those one-on-one visits. We have so many stories of donors who will just try out a charity. Like they'll give $500 anonymously, or not anonymous, just kind of unprompted, unsolicited, and just see what the charity does. How do they respond? How do they thank me? How do they recognize me? What information do I get? And if we're doing all the best practices, you can get a relationship with someone who can give substantially. A lot of times people will spread out and they'll do a little bit of money on a handful of charities in town and just see how they all react. The charity that calls and says, "Oh my gosh, thank you so much. This was a wonderful gift. We're so excited that you're a part of our team now, our tribe," all of that might get a better relationship and have a better shot at a much, much larger gift. So what we're recommending is to go down that roster. Say, okay, we probably got a wave of these, more than likely, or at least we got a few. Let's see if we can form relationships with them. Let's see if we can get in the door some actual connection. Let's get some things on the books. Let's have lunch with these people. So we know that without a doubt, our best prospects for donors are donors. There are people who are currently already giving to us. We know that's the easiest yeses that we'll ever get, because we don't have to go through the talking through why you should give to us. There's the I'm going to try to talk them into something. It's like, that's hard to do. People kind of make up their mind on their own. We have to kind of guide them, and hopefully our mission aligns with their personal giving mission. And if they've given to us, they've already at least a little bit decided that it might, or that it has. So we want to really take advantage of that and say, great, you've shown some interest in our organization. Can I sit down with you and kind of hear about what some of your giving goals are? Like, you've obviously given to us already. We're so thankful. Tell me what you hope that we are able to do with that gift. Like, you've obviously tried to make an impact. What specifically impact would you like to see from us? And that can start this wonderful kind of back and forth cultivation conversation where they say, I'd like to see this, this, and this change. And you say, well, we got a campaign doing that, or we're working towards that, or that's something we hadn't thought of, but with a gift of this size, we could probably get that done or get that started. So you can have these wonderful cultivation conversations. We know we're not going to raise as much money sitting at our desk as we are out in the community. Wish it was not the case, but it is. Again, we surveyed a bunch of our clients and a bunch of people last year about what's the worst part of the fundraiser's job. They said asking for money. We're like, oh, well, that's kind of a bummer, because we really hope that you do a lot of that at your job, because that's the most effective way to get big money in the doors, to go talk to people face to face if we can. So being that our best prospects are donors, we got to go talk to them. The small gifts, those people you haven't met yet, those people who are the lower level, entry level giving, see if you can call them, thank them, see if you can sit down for lunch and really work on getting to know them. We know that this will result in a few short-term gifts. You will go through this process with 20, 25 people, 100% chance do you get money in the door from this. But more importantly, you might get another 10 in the next year who give even more substantially. So this is kind of a twofold thing. We have this wonderful kind of injection of cash flow just by getting to connect with people and talking specifically about some of the initiatives that we're trying to accomplish with our project or our mission or our campaign or whatever we're working on. But then also, we now have a pipeline of donors who are doing the correct things cultivation wise in our pipeline. And we can kind of move them throughout the year and continue to work on them. So this is just a really wonderful way to kind of get both the near term and the long term dollars in for people who really easy to find. We're just, we got to go find new prospects. We got to find new people. It's like, let's start with the people that we definitely already have, and we've run out of them. Then we'll go find new people. How does that work? Awesome. All right. Last one, number 6. So we talked about this and we thought about this a lot, but we just got to make the ask. Like, there's a lot of people we're waiting and we're sitting on these major prospects, and I can't ask them yet, and we're waiting on the specific project, and I don't know if it's a good time for them. Like their mother just passed, and we make excuses all day long. And the reality is, we don't actually know if the timing is going to be perfect. And even if the timing is perfect, we won't be able to know that either. There's no possible way we can predict someone else's timing. We can guess based on our information we know about them, based on the peer information, based on a board member who knows them, but we're never going to get it exactly perfect. And what if we risk and we get a no? It's like, that's okay. If we burn a prospect, or we think about it that way, oh, I got to know that account or that person or that entity is closed out forever. It's like, not necessarily. You could get a no, and then in 8 months, you can go ask again, and you get a yes that time. You're not going to bother people if you space out those asks and it's appropriate and it feels well timed with the project that you're doing. So we spend so much time trying to think about, well, let's wait for the perfect time. I don't want to lose this one. And again, we talked about this at our conference this year. We work so hard to be 3-0 with donors. Like we got to get every yes, and we can't get any no's. We're going to time everything perfectly. We're going to be well researched. We're going to cultivate until they're our best friends, and then we'll feel comfortable asking. I don't care about being 3-0. I want to be 9-12 with donors. I want to have made over 20 asks, tripled my revenue, and gotten a bunch of no's along the way that don't matter to me. That I don't care. So great, we got 12 no's. So what? I'll ask them again in 6 months, 8 months. I'll ask them again next year. It doesn't matter. It's so tough because as a human, just human psychology compels us to avoid rejection, avoid being put out of the tribe, avoid being not accepted. It's a really hard thing. It's not like there's something wrong with me if I don't want to do those things. It's ingrained in our DNA to not want those things. So it's very, very tough. You have to kind of go against your own psychology on this, but just being aware of it, of like, I'm going to get no's. Some people are going to say yes. Some are going to say maybe. Some are going to say not right now. Some are going to say no. And that is not a judgment on my character. Like it's part of the fundraising job. We're going to get some yeses and some no's. Same thing, if you work in sales, you're going to get some no's. Same thing if you work in science. Some of your experiments are going to, confirm your hypothesis and some are not. And like, you can't go in saying, I'm only going to do something if it works. I'm only going to do it if it's successful. So that said, please, if you're sitting on major donors that you have not asked yet, or you've been waiting to ask, just go for it. Just go for it. You might be surprised as you see what happens. So that's it. That's our 6 tips. I'm going to hand it back over to Marty to kind of summarize and wrap us up, and then we'll get out of here.
Thank you, Jake. Okay, guys, we're just going to go down the list here. Let's remember, I want to challenge each of you to pick at least 1 or 2 of these to go forth. Okay, 1 or 2. I'm not saying all 6, right? That's too much. Pick 1 or 2 of these to go forth with. Okay, schedule visits with every lapsed donor you have. It doesn't even have to be every lapsed donor, right? You can just pick a handful of them and just start. I think that's the key. Let's pick something that's going to be easy enough for us to just start, just do it, right? Set a short-term goal with your volunteers. Maybe it is that you're like, yes, like I am in that space that they are chomping at the bit and we need something to inspire the volunteers and this is going to work the best. Let's set that short-term goal, right? Use that matching gift challenge, especially if you have just received a really great major gift that you have not publicized yet or that you're just about to close. That's a great, great time because it's more sense of urgency than you will ever have to have my money can be doubled, right? Like that's wonderful sense of urgency for most people. Upgrade your consistent current donors with incentives. Again, it is very easy to keep moving them along if they have already established that pattern of giving to your organization. Make them feel really special and like we are inviting you to come and be at this next level, and they will very much appreciate it. If they're not interested, no worries, they can keep going. But guess what? Most people, if they have established that pattern of giving, they're going to be interested in exploring what's next or how they could look at that over the next several years. Call and thank those year-end donors, especially the unsolicited ones. This is definitely low-hanging fruit. If you have sent out all these mailings and you're like, wow, we got these great new gifts and they actually gave at our annual gifts club level, so we sent them a really nice thank you letter. Shame on you for not picking up the phone and also saying thank you, because if they did that through a mailing, imagine what they could do through a little bit more cultivation. So definitely important to pick up that phone, right? No more waiting, just make the ask. It can be so easy to put off those asks that we're like, we're going to just save that for when we really are having a bad month or a bad moment in time. Don't save it. Make the ask now, because you never know what additional asks could come out of it, right? So no more waiting, just make the ask. All right. Well, I hope that everyone has at least 1 or 2 that they might take away. Does anyone have any questions or want to share? Hey, this is the one thing I'm going to go do now. Feel free to unmute so I don't have to put you on the spot. Alexis, what's your one takeaway? Thank you.
I think I'm really going to look at the lapsed donors. I think that's a great idea. We just finished up a match, so I'll probably hold up on that a little bit until we get that next big one. But
Yeah.
Definitely taking a look at some of our lapsed donors.
Great. Awesome. Thank you for sharing. Thanks for playing along. Steve Weekland.
Same lapsed donors and figuring out a way we can connect with our Libent donors last year from last year. Those who didn't give it this past year, be more strategic and focused on how we can connect with them, get them
Awesome.
back in the fold.
Awesome. Yep. So powerful to go reach back into that. They gave for a reason. Go find out. Let's explore. Annie, do you have a
I knew you were
good
going to call me.
Sorry.
We're going to do, well, me and my group, we're going to do lapsed donors for sure. But the no more waiting really stuck with me because just things that we've been going through lately. So, and then short-term goals. I'm actually going to reach out today to my philanthropy council and go over a few things with them. So
Awesome. There is no time like the present. Frank.
Stephanie thought of the idea. We have a sponsor who is providing an incentive to give to all of the people that donated at the end of the year. So they're going to receive a nice Nalgene water bottle with a little message inside with our logo and the sponsor's logo. Gives us an open door to talk to them.
I love it. That is awesome. Thank you so much for sharing. Anyone else? I'll stop putting people on the spot, but anyone else who's inspired, feel free to share, or we will entertain questions. That's it? No more? Okay. Well, hopefully everyone has been inspired. I want to hear that I did this and it helped. It moved the needle, right? All right. Well, with that, just a reminder, follow us on LinkedIn. Definitely love connecting with everyone. Definitely pushing out content on that regularly and want to make sure that we are connecting with you. So please go ahead and either scan that QR code or visit that link.